It's time now for a look at the latest in local news. In the news, Georgia lawmakers returned to the state capitol today for their second COVID-19 session in 7 months amid a still deadly pandemic. Uncertain budget issues of debate during this session. This past Thursday, the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce held its annual Eggs and Issues breakfast, and we talked with our local representation. Today we hear from State Representative Stephen Meeks.
Here's Stephen Meeks. Looking forward to Monday with Meeks. You can be at the legislature. What can we expect this year, legislature? And last year, the budget was the big issue, had to be cut. Will the budget be more stable this year with a new year?
That's what the anticipation is. And first of all, Happy New Year. Look forward to Mondays with Meeks. We do convene on Monday with swearing in, so we'll be heading up to Atlanta early in the week for the beginning of session, and looking forward to another session. The budget itself, the governor has not asked for any cuts from the agencies as of now, so we expect the budget to remain somewhat where it is currently. But it'll be one of the bigger issues, as it always is. It's the one thing we're required constitutionally to do. The other will be taking a look at our election system and working to reinstill confidence in our election system as we move forward.
A big important point that was made today in the legislative session was that Georgia stayed open, and that helped a lot of people, helped a lot of businesses. That's the intent this year as well, to make sure that Georgia stays open.
It certainly is, and the governor took great leadership there in making sure that our state remained open, that businesses could continue to operate, that employers and workers would remain on the job. And it's important that we make sure that the protective equipment is there. You know, there are so many accolades that could go out to so many people across our communities, from healthcare workers and school teachers and others who remained vigilant, making sure that they were protecting themselves and making sure that we were able to continue to educate our kids and keep businesses open. So thank you to all of those in the community who remain vigilant, and it's important that as we move forward that we continue to be socially distanced and wearing masks and doing things to protect ourselves and others.
Wayne County, a rural community, a lot of places still without broadband. How do you see that playing out this year in the legislative session?
We're going to continue to work on it. It's not a quick fix, unfortunately, but we've got to make sure, in my estimation, that number one, we provide some incentive to getting broadband out to the more rural parts of our state. As you look at the map of broadband, even in Wayne County, it's very concentrated in areas, and there's areas outside of the major thoroughfares that don't have access to that broadband. And we've got to make sure that we're trying to find ways to incentivize that expansion into those areas.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to Mondays with Meeks.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you. And if there's anything that I can be of assistance with, please don't hesitate to give us a call. My cell is 912-207-0813, and looking forward to hearing from each of you.
And once again, those comments of State Representative Stephen Meeks. Again, we've lined up our representatives beginning next week with Monday with Meeks, Tuesdays with Blake Tilley, and Wednesday with Bill Workheiser. We'll hear from Bill Workheiser tomorrow here on the local news. We heard from Blake Tilley this past Friday. The 2021 session begins today with a swearing-in ceremony. Lawmakers will be wearing masks. Once again, the general public being urged to stay away for health reasons. One change will be the presence of more police at the State House in response to last Wednesday's event in Washington, D.C. The 2020 session was suspended in March because of the coronavirus, only to finish just before the end of the fiscal year in June. With COVID-19 cases still skyrocketing over the winter, it's unclear whether the session will run straight through or if the lawmakers will be forced to suspend once again. House Speaker David Rosen says it'll be all depending on the COVID-19 rate. He says they most likely will have to make that decision on the fly if the rates spike around the Capitol. Lawmakers and their employees will be required to be tested for COVID-19 twice a week during the session. Testing was available in June, as well as several senators caught the virus in March. All will be required to wear masks, something the House Speaker demanded back in June. Typically, the sessions run from the second Monday in January until late March or early April. Lawmakers like to finish by school spring break or the Masters Golf Tournament, which this year will begin on April the 5th. One thing they're required to do is, by law, is pass the budget. Once again, top priority. Once again, we'll be checking in with our local representation during the legislative session. That begins next week, Monday through Wednesday. We'll be back with more news after this word from our sponsor of the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. This Tuesday, the Wayne County Board of Education meets for a work session at 6 p.m. at the Tech Center. Here's a look at their agenda. First item of business will be the election of chairman and vice chairman for the year 2021. Board will discuss property in the old Martha Ross Smith Elementary facility. On the agenda is a topic of campaigning on school property. They state the draft policy has been presented and will be, or has been written up and will be presented for discussion. A COVID-19 update also on the agenda for Tuesday. Finance report and also an executive session to discuss personnel. Big story this year with the school system is a search for a new school superintendent, which is underway. Application process has been completed. Now the board beginning the discussion of narrowing the field of applicants down to the final 3. Chairman Nick Ellis says that target date is set for February the 16th. Current school superintendent Jay Brinson retiring at the end of March, so the board has been advertising and now begins the process of narrowing the applicants down to the final 3. Interview those 3 and eventually announce who they will hire as the next school superintendent of Wayne County. Again, WIFO continue to follow the story as it develops. Once again, a meeting Tuesday at the Tech Center for a work session. Tuesday morning, we have as our special guest on the Butch and Bob Show, Congressman Buddy Carter, who was at the Capitol and in the highest chamber, and one who had to be escorted out of the hall and into safety. Carter writes as follows, his account of that afternoon. He says, as the 117th Congress began this week, the world watched as a mob stormed the United States Capitol. I was on the floor of the United States House of Representatives, ready for a critical debate about free and fair elections. As the Capitol was breached, I was one of the last to leave the chamber. This was nothing short of anarchy, and I condemn it strongly. We lost a member of the Capitol Police due to the violence that day. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick died defending the heart of American democracy. He's a hero, and we are praying for his family and friends and all law enforcement. Congress continued our work for the American people, though. Once the Capitol was secure, we returned to continue our duty of certifying the electoral votes from each state. Carter writes, quote, we have been warned to avoid being outside because of the protesters. As we begin our vote certification, we can hear the protesters outside. After the Speaker gavels us in, she welcomes the senators to the joint session and relinquishes the gavel to Vice President Mike Pence, President of the Senate. After accepting electoral votes from Alabama and Alaska, House member and senator both object to accepting the electoral votes from Arizona. As is in the rules, the Senate then goes back to their chambers to debate the issue, and we stay in the House to debate. During the debate, the protesters outside can be heard getting louder and louder. After about 15 minutes of civil debate, the Capitol Hill police enter the House chamber, lock us inside, and inform us that the Capitol has been breached by the protesters. Next, they escort the Speaker and the other leaders from the House chamber, then lead members out and through tunnels to an undisclosed location for our safety. I am one of the last ones to leave the chamber. I leave with mixed emotions. I'm very sad because of what I am witnessing, but I'm also mad as hell at the protesters for what they are doing. This type of behavior has no place in our society, and those responsible should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We are carrying on a civil debate on a very important issue, which is our responsibility and our job. The destruction of lawlessness displayed by these protesters hurts their own purported purpose and destroys what we are trying to achieve by having a civil debate. Once we are in our secured location, all of us, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, are terribly upset by these developments. After notifying family members of my safety, I have a number of phone interviews with district media to report on my experiences. After being hunkered down in the undisclosed location for almost 5 hours, Capitol was secured, and we head back to the House chamber and continue our work. So I'm very proud that we did not let the protesters stop our work, but instead we gaveled back in at 9 p.m. and worked until almost 4 a.m. the next morning, having civil debate and finishing our work. Again, we'll have Congressman Buddy Carter on the world-famous Butch and Bob Show tomorrow morning. We'll come back with a final news note after this word from our sponsor of the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final notes in the news, the vaccine is starting to be distributed again for the following phase 1 individuals, healthcare workers in clinical settings, staff and residents of long-term care facilities, all law enforcement and fire personnel, including volunteer departments, adults aged 65 years of age and older, and their caregivers. So again, if you're in one of those categories beginning today, you're eligible to receive the COVID vaccine. An appointment is required, however, to receive the vaccine. And again, to verify eligibility and schedule an appointment, I ask you please call the following number, 1-855-473-4374, 1-855-473-4374. Again, the vaccine is starting to be distributed here in Wayne County to those groups. Again, phase 1, based on guidelines established by the governor back on December 30th of 2020. Well, that's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports comes your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan saying have a great day.